Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have yet another of these beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series figures to take a look at today. I want to give a huge shout out to David Silva for being awesome and sending this over a little bit early to get a review up rather than waiting for Wave 3 to actually ship. I believe it's going to start shipping in December, so that's when everybody should start to receive their figures, but again, he sent this one over along with the last two, the Triceratops and the Xenoceratops, a little bit early just so we could check them out here on the channel. And again, this one here is another of the many that I was greatly looking forward to. A very cool, very underrepresented species of ceratopsian in figure form, and another with a really nice, very flashy looking, but very natural looking paint scheme. This is the Utahceratops, and you can quite clearly see that here from the title on the right hand side underneath that gorgeous artwork. And then we also have the Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series logo up there at the top, stating again that this is in 1/18th scale like the large majority of these figures are. As far as the box art goes, again, we see what we have going on there on the front, but on the back we have the checklist. Yet again, this is the Wave 3 checklist. We now are 3 figures into Wave 3 as far as these reviews go, and we have a few left to get a hold of and review, which would be the Albertoceratops, the Pentaceratops, the Torosaurus, and the Sinoceratops. And then again, as far as what we have over here on the side, we have Utahceratops, a sneak peek of the collectible card that is inside, as well as some information on the Utahceratops right down here, and then stating that the art was created by Shannon Beaumont. So really cool looking. Cannot wait to get this one out and check it out here in hand. So let's pop this box open and do just that. So as far as what we have inside, again, we have our tail assembly instructions stating basically that to get the tail on, you really should heat the tail up a little bit with like some hot water or a hair dryer or something along those lines. There have been some ceratopsians in this line I was able to get the tail on without, but it is quite a task, and it probably would be a lot easier to do it that way. And then we also have the art card. Again, beautiful image of our ceratopsian walking along, as he's also got some travelers there with him riding along the back of our Utahceratops. And then here on the back, we basically have some dinosaur toy photography, a really nice image of the Utahceratops. We also have Beasts of the Mesozoic logo up there. Again, the species title, some information on the species, who the art was created by, the Creative Beast logo, and again, number 22 in the top left-hand corner. Whew. So now's the time we bring in our beautiful ceratopsian, and here we are. Look at that beauty right there. That is one gorgeous looking Utahceratops. These figures are just so mind-bogglingly awesome. It truly is just a blessing, honestly, to have this line, because on top of getting some of the nicest detailed ceratopsians and most beautifully sculpted ceratopsians that have ever existed, we also have received some of the most striking painted ceratopsians, and this is yet another one. Every single one of these figures is so visually impressive. It is just unbelievable. Like, they have had some of the most beautiful and flashy paint schemes throughout the entire course of this line, and it blows my mind. Like, there are times when I'm repainting dinosaurs or something, and I just sit there and I'm like, oh man, how should I paint this? I just don't know what I should come up with for this paint scheme. What's something that looks unique and different that I haven't seen before? And it's so hard to do that. And yes, I know that David comes up with his inspiration from, many living animals for his figures, but you also have to then take that inspiration and transform it into a way that it works with a ceratopsian, and that is something that clearly he is very good at doing, because he has perfected it on each and every one of these figures in this line. And this Utahceratops is another picture-perfect example of that. Just gorgeous looking here at first glance. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Utahceratops, you can see the scale detail looks very nice throughout the course of the figure. Really, really beautiful detailing throughout as far as the skin detail goes, the scale detail goes. You can see it's very nicely done. Many different sized scales, so many different tones of color added to the face on top of the incredible scale detail. You can see the nostrils sculpted out very nicely right there, but you can see throughout the darkened areas of our figure, you can see there's a very nice variation of browns and blacks, and it kind of trades back and forth in a super smooth and realistic way. And I like this one because some of the ceratopsians have just a ton of many different variations of colors on their faces, but this one seems to stick to kind of a few different shades of color, where we have some darker colors and some lighter colors, and that's basically what we have here. We have some variations of reds with oranges, and then we also have some variations of blacks with browns, and I really think it looks great on the figure and very nice and natural. Again, I don't know how good the light on the camera here is picking it up, but you can see it is super smooth as far as the way that that brown and black transitions back and forth between each other. You can also see the detailing there of the beak is incredibly well done. There's like some very nice cracks and crevices throughout, which have also been dry brushed out beautifully. And of course we can articulate the jaw, and this one's actually really smooth. Like from the moment I got this out of the box, that jaw works so nicely, so smoothly. But you can, of course, open it quite nicely. You can see that kind of like skin flap there on the side of the mouth has been given a nice lighter red coloration. The inside of the mouth itself sports a very nice purple, kind of a dark purple, also given a really beautiful gloss coat. The tongue is really high up in the mouth right now, but the tongue actually does articulate. And that's one thing that I seem to continuously forget, is the fact that the tongue articulates when speaking of the articulation in these figures. So that's something to definitely keep in mind, again, is the fact that that tongue does articulate in there, but it looks really nice. Again, everything is brought together beautifully with a nice gloss coat, so it shines like it has like a real saliva-like look in there, which is always a great touch to any prehistoric figure. As you move up here into the eye, the detailing around the eye is insanely nice. Look at that really nice detail there right in the eye socket. That is gorgeous looking, and you can see the eye is painted with a yellow, and it's been given a very nice big black pupil, which all together looks great with that really nice gloss coat in that area as well. Really shining so lifelike and realistically. Love the eyes of these ceratopsians. And then moving up into the horns of our Utahceratops, I really love the paintwork of these horns specifically, more so than I think many others, because I feel like the way they're painted looks so lifelike and realistic. You can see some really nice tones of like a light and dark brown have been included, and they transition back and forth so realistically. It really looks nice and natural on this figure, brings the detailing of the horns out beautifully, but again, I just really think that that might be one of the most naturalistic colorations for the horns of any of the ceratopsians so far. And then leading up here into the frill, you can see that the scale detail continues to look really nice, and now we have more of an abundance of the red as opposed to the brown and black. And although we do still see some of the brown and black, we have a really cool design up here on the actual frill, where you can see some of the black kind of just scattered throughout, but we also have the really nice tones of red, and there seems to be like two different tones of red, or maybe like an orange and a red included, but there also seems to be like a very dark reddish wash, and then we have some really nice tones of oranges and yellows there to add a nice element of flashiness there on the frill. And I think this again is another really nice coloration for the frill of a ceratopsian, where it looks really flashy but really natural at the same time. But the detailing there of the spikes that run along the frill again all look great, really nicely painted, similarly to the horns there on the head of the ceratopsian that we were just speaking of how nice they looked. Really nice washes and some really nice dry brushing seems to have been applied to these horns, and I really am absolutely in love with the paintwork of the horns and spikes of this Utahceratops specifically. Again, probably one of my favorites as far as the coloration goes of the spikes and horns throughout the entire course of the line, and you can see how nice the head sculpt looks over here. Again, really consistent paintwork, and that's something that has been the case for the entire line. All of the paintwork has been so carefully placed, carefully applied, and so precise as far as the way it's applied. No sloppiness that I've seen on any of these figures so far, and that honestly is just mind-blowing that they could be so precise as far as the paintwork the entire way through. You can see down here we have another variation of like a red, kind of like almost like a reddish brown, kind of spotting in a few spots on the lower jaw. As we move back here into the neck, you start to see some skin wrinkles and stuff right here behind the frill. You can also see some very nice muscle definition and tensing here in the neck region of the ceratopsian, as well as the throat down here. Some skin wrinkles and stuff included there, and we have some very nice tones of, again, that black and brown mixture, as well as some more of that lighter coloration picking up with like some light hints of the red that kind of runs around the border of that black, but also a nice lighter coloration in general for the underside of our ceratopsian. And then back up here in the neck region, you start to see some nice variations again of reds and almost like an off-white actually right here. And then you can see it kind of spotting and stuff in up here in the top of the neck region. It's pretty much very sporadic as far as the way it's applied. It's just all over the place. And you can see the back of the frill also sports some really nice coloration with a very nice kind of a lighter off-white or a yellow, and then the red that's been dry brushed over top, and it has kind of like a design back there as well, which looks really cool. And then of course we have some variations of blacks and browns back there, pretty much the theme of the entire Ceratopsian. You can see some of the scoots and stuff that run along the spinal column of the figure, similar to what we had just seen on the Dinosaur on my recent review of that figure. And then moving back into the body a little bit further, you again have more of that black and brown that kind of just designs and stripes down all over the place. Again, no specific design, it seems, applied, like no uniform design. It's just kind of sporadic all over the place. And you can see again some variations of reds and yellows and oranges. There's just some really cool coloration added to this one, and it's just all over the place and looks incredible because of the way it's painted. As you move down, you start to see again like some creasing right here in the joint of the front leg. Moving down into the leg, you can pick up on some muscle definition. Again, some more nice paintwork here with some more of those black and brown kind of splotches of color, and then we also have some reds and some off-whites and stuff throughout. Moving down further into the leg, you start to see a little bit more of the red kind of becomes a little more abundant, as well as the black, before transitioning entirely to a black and brown, I guess you could say, because it's a nice mixture of both in the foot. And then you can also see the nails are painted with a very nice off-white coloration, similar color to what we see on the underside of the Ceratopsian, but also has been given a beautiful gloss coat, just like they usually do have. And you can also pick up on the toes, very nicely sculpted here in the foot region of this Ceratopsian. Leading back up into the stomach, again, I love how the scale detail is really big up here, very impressive, but you can see it just diminish in size the further down into the stomach region you get, before picking back up, becoming a little larger on the total underside of the Utahceratops. You see some more of those kind of like skin wrinkles and stuff here in the stomach region right there. Really beautiful dry brushing. I love the way that they've dry brushed this orange over the lighter coloration underneath so that that scale detail pops really beautifully. You can also pick up on some osteoderms and stuff here and there throughout the course of the figure. You have the hip bone right here. Again, we have the spinal column up here nicely displayed with some osteoderms or scoots that run along the back of the dinosaur. You see more of that orange and red mixture up here picking up as it transitions more to just the orange with kind of like a reddish wash. Moving down into the thigh, you can see another osteoderm picking up here, and there are actually a few osteoderms right there. Some more of the black and stuff showing up, as well as some beautifully defined musculature in the calf and the thigh. And then you can of course see the really nice black and brown mixture kind of running back and forth. And again, we have kind of like a reddish outline that sort of circles around the black in certain areas, which is really cool to see. And then moving down into the foot, again, the ankle and everything looks great detail-wise, and you can also see the foot also looks beautiful. You have the very nicely sculpted out toes, and again, the nails painted and glossed, just like we saw on the first foot. And then moving back up into the dinosaur here, leading out into the tail, you can see the tail transitions from kind of like this lighter off-white coloration to more of a red, and then we have a mixture of the red and black and brown striping, which looks really cool, ending the Ceratopsian in a beautiful, very flashy way. The underneath, of course, has incredibly well done detail, where we have a really nice light coloration, but kind of also a light coloration there that's been like given a wash here so that the detail still pops quite beautifully. You can see some muscle definition and some really nice skin wrinkles and stuff there in the chest of the Ceratopsian. Really, honestly, an incredible looking, very striking Ceratopsian is this Utahceratops. And again, being an articulated figure, you're really not going to see too much difference over here in comparison to what we had just seen on the initial side. But of course, that means it looks beautiful on both sides, and you can see how incredibly well done the paint application is, again with the dry brushing and washes that they've used to really make the detail pop in such a lifelike way. And of course, the really nice coloration down into the legs, beautifully sculpted out legs and feet, and we have the really nicely painted nails. Same deal for the back. It honestly looks incredible no matter where you look at it. Another beautiful Ceratopsian in a long list of incredible Ceratopsians from the beasts of the Mesozoic line. So then as far as articulation goes, again, we do have the articulation of the tongue, which I seem to always forget to mention, but that is articulated inside the mouth. And then we also, of course, have the articulated jaw, which you just saw me open to kind of point inside the mouth. And this one's really, really smooth. Again, impressively smooth as far as the way it operates. But just like per usual, we have articulation at 2 spots back here in the neck, one right behind the head, one right here at the base of the body, and that allows for some really cool posability for your ceratopsian. Allows you to make the head go left, right, down, up, really wherever you would like, and also can swivel if you would really like to go that route, but don't know why you would want to do that. And then we also have articulation right here in the shoulder area, or leading up to the shoulder at the very least. We also have articulation in the elbow, which is super, super stiff right now, but I'm going to have to loosen that one up. And then, of course, articulation in the wrist of our Utahceratops. It's amazing how this is swiveling quite smoothly, but the joint just doesn't want to bend forward and back too well. But it does, of course, articulate. It's just a little stiff at this point in time. We do have articulation in the midsection as usual for our ceratopsian, allowing even more posability with your figure, and then the hip region as well as the knee, and the knee is almost always stiff. This is pretty much, moved, but certainly stiff. Pretty much a guarantee the knees are always stiff for some reason. It's something that, again, some warm water or a hairdryer should heat up and make the joint move a little smoother, but you, of course, have the ability to make it have like that running position, and then 2 areas of articulation down here in the ankle, which can move very smoothly, very nicely, once heated up usually. It's a little bit smooth right now, but not too great as far as the way it's allowing me to move it. Again, I really have to heat this one up and get the joints moving a little bit better. But we also have articulation in the tail, go left, right, up, down, and of course swivel if we really choose to, which I'm not really going to do right now. But there is just tons and tons and tons of articulation for any of these beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series figures, and this is yet another perfect example of that. But for a size, again, another large Ceratopsian. For a length, you are looking at about just shy of 14.5 inches, or around 37 centimeters. So it's actually a little longer than the Dinosaurus we recently reviewed. And then for a height, it is a little over 7 inches, or about the 18 centimeter mark. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, in comparison to our Utahceratops from the Beasts of the Mesozoic line. And you can again see that this is another very large ceratopsian. Like I had stated in the Dinosauratops review, it seems like Wave 3 is primarily larger ceratopsians, and you can see that quite clearly here, yet again, in comparison to these figures right here. And speaking of large ceratopsians, we yet again have ourselves the large Triceratops, the adult Triceratops, in comparison to the Utahceratops. And you can see that although the Triceratops itself is really big and quite a bit larger than the Utahceratops is no slouch by any means. And next to this figure here, you should be able to see that the Utahceratops, although not quite as massive, still sports a very big size. And then for another comparison, we now have the Utahceratops and Dinosauratops, the 2 most recently reviewed ceratopsians on my channel. And you can again see that the figures are very similar in size, but the Utahceratops is actually just a hair bigger than the Dinosauratops in length, maybe not quite in height, but I guess that would just depend on the position of the neck, as the Dinosauratops appears to have its neck up a little bit higher currently than our Utahceratops, but both really similar sized ceratopsians. And then the final one is the subadult Triceratops in comparison to our Utahceratops, and you can see that this figure really quite drastically outsizes the subadult Triceratops here, and is definitely, again, showing off the fact that this is certainly one of the largest ceratopsians in the line, but Wave 3 seems to be pretty much a competition of large ceratopsians, so I'm certain there will be quite a few large ones here included in this wave. So this brand new Beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series, Utahceratops, is another gorgeous figure, and I would honestly say one of my favorites in the line as well, which seems to be like the case for Wave 3. They're really hammering out some of the best that this line has seen so far, which is really impressive considering how many incredible figures we've had throughout the course of this line. It is sad to see it now coming to a close with the last remaining few figures releasing, although we do also have a green Triceratops that will be coming from David Silva sometime next year, so we kind of have a little bit more to the line, and I do believe we will also have some smaller versions of like the Psittacosaurus and Protoceratops, as well as another species of Protoceratops we didn't have in this line at some point probably next year. So it's not entirely over as far as the Ceratopsian series goes, so there is some good news there, but it is awesome to finally be able to get the final wave here of the Ceratopsian series, as they are so close to beginning to ship, and I do believe I have like 4 other ones that would be, of course, on their way to review for you guys and add to my collection. But this one, again, is definitely one of the nicest of all, with a gorgeous, very highly detailed sculpt, a beautiful appearance as far as the Utahceratops goes. I always was a big fan of this Ceratopsian specifically. It's just a really cool looking Ceratopsian, and I feel like this figure has done this species justice so unbelievably nicely. The sculpt, again, really nice detail throughout like you always see in these figures, but the paint as well is just expertly applied, really nicely done in a very realistic way. I love how they add like numerous different tones of color, giving it that super lifelike skin tone to the figure, and they've painted it with a nice combination of washes and dry brushing, which has been pretty much the way they've painted all of these figures, and it looks excellent throughout the course of the figure. Really nice naturalistic application of the paint. It genuinely looks like body color and not just paint on a figure, so that is always a gigantic plus when it comes to a dinosaur figure. Again, the spikes and horns I think are probably my favorite out of all of the Ceratopsians as far as the way they're painted on this Utahceratops, and the combination of that with the really nice naturalistic but very flashy looking color scheme used for the Ceratopsian pretty much amounts to one of the nicest and most visually appealing Ceratopsians in this entire line. The articulation is also beautifully done as per usual when it comes to these figures, sporting just tons and tons of articulation, allowing so many different poses and display options and countless scenes that you could create with this Ceratopsian, which is, of course, one of the main selling points of this line. But honestly, even if these figures did not have any articulation, they were just stagnant figures, I would still be head over heels in love with them, because they're honestly so unbelievably awesome. Words do not do these figures justice, and I'm certain even these reviews don't do these figures justice. You really need to get some of these in hand to truly appreciate how incredible they are. So if you are interested in picking this up, again, make sure you check the link in the description, as I will have a link to the backer kit where you can still place an order for this currently, and you can get this pre-order in before the figures start to ship in December. So make sure you check that link, make sure you order this gorgeous Utahceratops, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.